Hello, Internet. It is time for another Wednesday serial. It was a huge week, so we're going to be doing some independents, some DCs, and some Marvel's independents. I'm really starting to question that. But before we get to the comics, I wanted to throw a couple things out there, and I wanted to do it first, because we know how people watch these videos. The first thing is, if you saw my last video, there were problems. So, I would like to hear from people about how you make your videos, what you use. I'm not too worried about the exact, specifics, if you use a webcam or a camcorder or whatever, and then what software you use to actually capture and then do that in what you edit in, or if that's any of the same or different, whatever. Please let me know, because I need something new. I think my hardware is good, and I use a webcam, and then go to Microsoft Lifecam, and then cut it up in the Microsoft Movie Editor, and then just post to YouTube after saving it in a certain format. If anyone has something that works better, clearly something's starting to fray on my end. The second thing was, there is a small number of issues of a book of a run that I'm trying to complete. Certain issues of the second volume of Tales of TMNT that are nearly impossible to find. So if you'd be willing, I'd like to send out the list of the issue numbers, and if you ever find it, I'll work out a way to pay for it and arrange. I can't arrange for the shipping necessarily, but I make it as easy as possible. But if anyone finds any of the issues of that list that I'm missing, please let me know if you're willing to look, and I'd like to put that out there, because I'm kind of at my wit's end, and it's not even the point that I can't find it for a reasonable price online or anything like that. It just cannot be found. Right, first up is Black Science 2, and this is definitely... You definitely get some feelings of, Fear Agent, you can't help but think that again, but, this issue is really, the scientist versus the greedy corporate guy thing, but it's all, in an issue, and it's set up, and there's some cool character stuff, so now that we're kind of hooked in with the crazy sci-fi, we're getting a bit more character. So I'd argue this book's still setting up, but it's one component there, another component there, and I'm wondering if they're going to go for another, or dive in more, or see how that comes out, but I'm really liking this. I really feel like this is a book that people should jump on now while there's only 2 issues out. It's gorgeous. It is just gorgeous, the way that the panels are laid out, and I do want to point out that in this book, the panels... The gutter has very thick lines between panels, and it really breaks it up, but you definitely get a feeling that there's a bit of layout, but it is just kind of panel by panel. No crazy Eisner layouts, but it's all panels by panels, except for certain pages where there's minute points of background to one panel, and then the gutter's over, that sort of deal. It's just really cool, and we do get little hints of sci-fi, and just check out that cover. It is gorgeous stuff. So yeah, jump on this while it's developing. This is going to be basically the sci-fi book out there, I have a feeling. So woohoo. So Saga, yeah, Saga 17 really makes you want Saga 18? Spoilers, so skip to the next book. Otherwise, man, this issue is crazy. First we get introduced to the brand, which is bringing this whole weird, journalistic kind of literary editorial idea very explicitly. It's very much the idea of, in science fiction, you can take an idea, put a character, add a little crazy twist to it, and suddenly it's like a personification of a certain ideal, and then you juxtapose that against something else, You have these two journalists in there. It's a crazy little bit of dialogue. It's just a few pages, and it's a whole new element added in. Then throughout this book, we have a lot of character clashing, but there's also a lot of them talking about using like literary terms to kind of describe what's going on. It's kind of interesting in that sense that the book's almost pulling back and viewing on itself almost, but it's not. It's still in the book. It's not like it's not campy in a way or breaking the fourth wall or any of that sort of stuff. Like it's just very like self-aware, a little tongue-in-cheek, but very dramatic at the same time. And we're getting characters coming in. We have Gwendolyn bust through the door near the end here while other stuff's going on. Then you have a little bit with the Will, and we'll see how that goes. And we're going to see Lion Cat in action, I'm really hoping. And it's just a lot of things are coming to a head, whereas a lot of our first round of characters are like finally converging. We're, like I said, there's the brand, so now there's this other element out there, and we're probably going to get a slow loop around till that comes in as well, and so it's going to keep building. So it's really cool that now we're kind of in the thick of this book. We're going to see more come around. I'm excited, and I just said Black Science is like going to be the sci-fi book. Both of them great books. Whatever. Zero. Okay. If you're not picking this book up, I think you're crazy now. This is definitely kind of a sleeper hit for the year, at least for me. Definitely haven't heard many people talking about it. The way this book is done artistically, you just can tell that there's a love for it being a comic. There's definitely a use of color in here that, like, each page or page layout, it's not monochrome, but it's definitely in a hue, and then it changes as the mood changes. And this is the story of the one agent's coming to kill the old agent that has a little story to tell. And that story's been done in a few places, but what's interesting is you hear the setup, and what's beautiful is in a comic where normally they'd have all this backstory and stuff, it's just this. Zero. Edward Zero is a secret agent. He works for the agency. This is the story of his life. Okay. It's basically just like, he has a name, here's your character. Cool. Then Gareth Kyle worked for the agency. Then he quit. Okay. Roman Ziek, Zero's handler. Like, there you go. And then there's a few other minor characters, but essentially they're minor characters. And you know from the setup where this starts exactly where it's going to end. You know there's going to be some action between. But what's interesting is in the pages leading up to the action is the part you don't necessarily see, which is why you're going to care by the end. And it's really well done, and if you haven't, just pick up this issue. Read it. If you don't like it, I think you're crazy, but whatever. But if you do like it, I can almost guarantee you're going to like the other issues, and all of them are just a little bit different. So this is climbing my charts quick. Check it out. We're going to spend some time here. Ninja Turtles 29, and the reason we're spending some time here is personal indulgence, and I believe 3 people are picking up this comic on this issue solely because of me. Not because I said this issue, but because I've been banging on about long enough, and this is the start of a new arc. But this book has flow. It's more like, I keep saying it is the ultimate Ninja Turtles comic, as in like the ultimate Marvel line, but for Ninja Turtles. And it, like those books, there are 6-issue arcs, but they keep building on each other. And it's not always 6 issues, it's usually 4, but the numbers kind of switch. But the point is there's story chunks, and they kind of come, but a lot of this book is resting on the... I don't even want to say 28 previous issues, because there's a whole lot of other issues that tie at least into it's... Anyways, point being is there's a lot going on, so I want to kind of take some time to explain a little bit more of what's going on. So our first page, the very first caption, I've been in some nasty brawls in my time, but that thing, damn. And what we see in these 4 panels are the places we're leaving behind, at least for now. I mean, obviously, I don't know, I'm not writing it. New York City, obviously, and then there's this abandoned church, which leads to where the Turtles' hideout was, and then you have Second Time Around, which is April's antique shop, or at least the antique shop she lives above, not necessarily in service. And then you see a broken down building that's going to come to play later, but it's Stock Gen, which ties to Baxter Stockman a bit there, but also you find out that has more ties to the ONeills. Then there's this theater that you see, and that's where this arc that just precedes this book, City Fall, ended, where there's a huge dropout fight with the entire cast that's been built up to this point that goes far beyond just your stock Ninja Turtle characters. And then you have them driving off in the rickety VW van, which is interesting because at the time, when the VW van driving off originally was to kind of show that, yeah, they had a van. But in the 90s, people had vans, whatever, is usually a used car sort of deal. Now it kind of shows that they were poor. This is like the kind of crappy vehicle they have a whole lot. It's interesting how it's the same thing, but it kind of plays to show the characters in a little different place by having the same vehicle just used years later. It may not even been that intentional, but it was a really nice touch. Then you have April and Casey talking a bit about Casey's dad, who is the character Hun, in case you're looking back or looking at some of this. And what's really interesting is this panel here. By the way, I'm just going like panel by panel, page by page through this comic and just explaining it, so read along. You'll notice Donnie and Splinter are holding each other, and then Mike and Raph are kind of holding each other a bit, and then Leo is separated from them, and it's really interesting because one image really represents where we're at with these characters right now. They're supposed to be a family, and Casey has been kind of pseudo-adopted by them, clearly not legally, but whatever. And April's part of all that too. They're dating now, as it shows later in the comic. That's a new thing. So, but Leo was brainwashed by the Shredder, and now they're dealing with the fallout of that. So, and that's why he's all in black, because that's what matched his Foot Clan outfit. So we have them, and they are on the farm. In basically every telling of the Turtles' history, this happens after their first major fight with Shredder. One of the major fights with Shredder. And we're here now, and it's interesting that now we're meeting the ONeills, which hasn't really been done. We've seen sisters, but never parents, and it's interesting because a big part of Ninja Turtles is family, but you don't always see a lot of the major characters' family, but we are now. But in the past, this was Casey's families, and then you'd meet other members of his family on the farm when there was kind of a time when they were there. And now we're seeing that it's the ONeills, and it's just a small change, but it's an interesting note that they're doing something different that works for the story now, and it's just a minor little switch from lore's past. So this is the part that inspired me to kind of do this part for you guys, because I'm sure you're wholly unaware of this. This fox has been stalking them, and she's alopex, as they say, and there's clearly some blood there, very particularly between Raphael and Alopex, who, yeah, they had some bad fights, and she kind of screwed with him to get some information on the turtles. And so he's not buying the lie, which makes sense. Been burned once, you don't want to get burned again. And everyone's kind of on Raph for being a hothead. Nothing new. And you just see this whole bit here, but what she says here is completely true, but it's interesting that it's there. The Shredder killed her family, but he killed her family when they were all foxes, but then he took her, and then mutated her into the anthropomorphic character you see, and trained her, and she only kind of found out about all this information more recently, and actually since she lied to Raphael. And that's been a bit that was building that came to a head, which, as they kind of flash back to, during this major brawl, she kind of sees a chance, and she tried to kill Shredder. She knew she had one shot, didn't make it, and so now she knew she had to run, otherwise she'd be killed by them. And it's all there, but it's very much one character like that, and so they didn't see that coming. But there's also something kind of similar to that in when Leonardo left the Foot Clan, how that played between Shredder and Karai, which I don't want to spoil in case you go back and read that, because that's one of the weirder, more brilliant points of that story. So that has a whole kind of bundle behind it, but you see that there's some more there. Then there's a bit with Casey meeting the ONeills, whatever, and then you have a bit with Leonardo having this weird, almost dream sequence, I want to say, but meditative, because Ninja Turtles. And you see there, and he's talking to this human woman, and he says mother, and that ties to the secret history of the Foot Clan mini, where they explain that the Turtles are kind of spiritual successors to this old Japanese feud that the Foot Clan was all a part of, and that's a whole nother thing, but know that element's there now. Then to the rest of the questions brought up in the book, mostly around the O'Neill family and stock gen, honestly, we'll hopefully find out more next issue. This is definitely a slower issue, and that's because we just had a big blowout. Imagine, like, you know, a Spider-Man after Maximum Carnage, or an X-Men right after the Dark Phoenix saga. It's one of those kind of decompression issues, and there's no mistake that this is very purposely set during fall's whole season of change idea. It may be a little more, I don't know if you want to say like touchy-feely, or a bit more contemplative than you might want from some of your more action-y comics. Just realize that this is kind of a lull, and the next couple of issues might be a bit more introspective, but it's going to ramp up again, definitely. Where we're going, I'm not exactly sure. I thought they were going to play in a couple elements from actually from the original Tales of TMNT, kind of like from the first couple issues sort of deal, but I doubt they're going to go there now, but we'll see. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, if you want to join my friends, jump on board, certainly check out some of the older stuff. This is definitively, basically, I'd say my favorite run of Turtles. It's consistently one of my favorite books, just awesome stuff. Then we jump into Marvel with Deadpool, and we're starting to get them back on track with Preston. First, we have Doctor Strange trying to help them out and help Preston out by exploring Deadpool's mind. And then we see that there's kind of this Preston body double, all the Nick Fury body doubles that were around, kind of inspired by the old Doctor Doom things. So in a way, all of this is inspired by Doctor Doom. Hopefully it gets there. But where it's going to go there, but there's a hit out on Deadpool because of all of this. And the first bounty hunter we see tackle is Crossbones. I was hoping to see a bit more of the old Deadpool mercenary side, which is something that was a Deadpool-centric thing more during the Joe Kelly, but certainly more of that older Deadpool stuff. But we're just seeing kind of more of the regular Marvel mercs come around, which could still be fun, but is a little less exciting, in my personal opinion. Also, important note on Deadpool. Deadpool Classics Volume 9 just came out, which is the first chunk of the Gail Simone run. There's no hint nor hide of Deadpool Classics Volume 10 that I could find on any of the places I normally would check on when that stuff would be coming out. I hope they do, because it's basically the latter half of Agent X, so maybe they could tie in something else. I don't know. But if nothing else, that is a whole arc and run of pretty much some of the most classic comics that I swear by, and it stops right before my favorite single issue of a mainstream comic ever. Which reminds me I should go back to my Deadpool Classic videos, but if there's any recommendations I can give, as usual, it's that Ninja Turtle run, Chew, Atomic Robo, and then Gail Simone and Joe Kelly Deadpool are things I will pretty much always swear on. It's relatively, for things that people just yell at you to pick up, a fairly small list, I'd say. Then Daredevil, we're winding down on this run, and we get ahead on the Sons of the Serpent deal, a little play, and an appearance from Doctor Strange. He just seems to be everywhere. And this comic definitely has some moments, but it's getting to a point now that I can kind of see the end of it, and I'm just kind of like, is this like... there's a moment at the end of the comic that really has me wondering if they're gonna do something in particular, but I'm hoping there's a little more. There's one interesting moment here when he's talking to Doctor Strange about these scrolls of the serpent and their potential for healing. He says, I was wondering if they could do something else, and he looks at an old picture, and my first thought was, oh, he's wondering if they can heal his eyes, but no, he meant cure Foggy of his cancer. And it was just one of those things. I was like, oh yeah, right, because Foggy basically isn't in this issue. Yeah, so definitely good stuff, but with it kind of winding down in a way, I just feel like maybe some of the magic was lost. Maybe a big part of Wade's run was really like this idea of potential, and it really came out at a point when I think I was really low on Marvel and stuff, and I'm like, but there's hope for more. And now that it's ending, it's kind of like the hope in a way is kind of vanishing from the book, at least when I'm reading it. So it's a shame, but there you have it. Then I picked up X-Men 7 and 8, mostly because Terry Dodson's on art, and in this household that will sell a comic. But I have to say, these two issues read better than basically this entire run beforehand. There's this new Lady Deathstrike who's implanted into a Mexican woman who's... I don't know what happened with Lady Deathstrike and why that's a thing, but I'm just going to roll with that. But the other big thing for me is Monet has come to the team as well, a la X Factor ending, which I haven't read the final trade yet, so I'm really wondering what happens. But whatever. But she's a character that really grew on me during Peter David's run of X Factor. Because of X Factor, he basically was the only person to write the character. But now, not so much. And so having her come in really adds a good dynamic, and I feel like he's able to pick onto her character. And now there's... And Jubilee hates her, so there's kind of this cool dynamic, and it works better than the Phoenix Storm tension, which is still there but not played up as much. And man, this book's just reading better. There's kind of a soap opera element, which I feel is needed for a good X-Men comic. And there's this developing of a sisterhood going on with not necessarily traditional X-villains, but it's coming to something fun. I really feel like this is where this book is churning around, and if you weren't picking up, maybe pick up these 2 issues if you're looking for some X stuff. There might be better X books out there, but I wouldn't know right now. And the idea of Nightcrawler coming back from hell is not selling me on comics, so this is as far as I know right now. And jumping into Batman Two-Face, I know I put this up, and Sleepy Reader said he loved the cover. It's really good, but I have to admit the whole, like, Batman Two-Face split face deal is kind of a gag that's running dry is the best way I can put it. I know it's not a joke, but a new idea would be nice, I guess. But I mean, I guess it's better than just, hey, look, it's Batman on a cover. So, whatever, it looks good, so whatever. But this was the most disappointing comic of the week for me, which is not to say it was bad. It really plays up. It really kind of sells this whole bit with breaking Vanessa out and this whole deal in connection to Two-Face better. It's interesting, it's there, but after last month, I was hoping for a lot more Matches Malone, and there's zero except for reference quickly to last month of Matches Malone. So I was just let down, and that might be really shallow, but it's all I wanted. And it wasn't there. But there's going to be some action next month, so there's that. Boom. And it was still better than 0 Years, so I don't know what you want. So Harley Quinn, I don't know how to put it, but they're definitely... She feels like a good female character, if that makes sense. Like, there's things that she does that's distinctly female and not like, but just the way she operates, and she's totally insane and crazy and doing stuff. But she bought a building, she needs to pay for it, so she signs up to be a psychiatrist again and looks at some roller derby, and there's just some chaos that ensues. This looks like it's going to be a fun book. I'm kind of wondering where the next hijinks are going to come from, but I feel like it's going to be more in the movement and in the moment than, like, big plot twists or anything, which is great. Those books always have more flavor and have more fun, and that's where this should be. And the art in it, Chad Hardin is awesome. And then Alex Sinclair does some awesome stuff with the art. It's a very bright and vibrant comic. The way the coloring deals with the lighting is handled in a way that I think most comics shy away from. The color is very expressive and illuminating, in a way kind of like hopeful and cheery, which does kind of do something to kind of sell the dark humor of it in a way. And it works. And as much as, you know, the penciler and inker are doing a good job, I really feel it's the colorist that's making this book sing. Curious to see what's going on. There's a lot of Coney Island kind of like circus freak stuff going on, which works as well. I mean, if you're looking for something a little different, pick this up. I wouldn't put it above most of the indies or anything, but this looks like it's going to be a fun book. Man, whatever, right? So, there's been this thing, if you watch Bat Chat, you might notice, where there's some people who have kept picking up Red Hood and the Outlaws. I don't want to name people, They might be like me, who bought this. Maybe I didn't buy it. But people who buy Red Hood and the Outlaws have been... Well, there's really no other word for it. They've been suffering James Tynion's run. The art's there, whatever, but how inspired can you be to really put your all into a script that's heartless? There's a certain bit when you buy a book because there's a certain love for what came before, and there's glimmers of hope, but it never quite pays off. It's akin to domestic abuse, where it's like you walk in regularly and things are going okay, but something feels off, something changed, and it just slaps you in the face. But this comes to light, and so it happens month after month, and then finally the writing's on the wall. They say they're going to change, and something like a character that is the entire crux of the comic, who's had this dumb amnesia thing, and it's tied to a bunch of mystic mumbo-jumbo. No one cares. But you go through the motions. And no, it's going to be okay. He's going to get his memory back. And you can't help but feel a little enlightened, but you know in a few months you're going to leave this bum writer who's done good with other people, but for you here now, it just kind of hurts. And you're going to move on. And there's going to be someone new, and you're just hoping they don't hurt you. But you have to be open to these new experiences, because if you don't put behind the hurt and move on, you can't have hope for the future, and you have to hope for the future. And here's hoping that day comes soon. But we know that there's an ending soon, and we just need to close that door, but we need to have one last moment. One last moment. But it feels good to feel transition. Then yeah, Wonder Woman. Dude gets popped, bitch runs, and yeah, it's just, I mean, it's kind of a big issue, but it's kind of not, because it's superhero comics. It's getting to a point where this whole thing with Zeke and everything is hitting a point where how can there be an ending? I'm hoping something's coming. I'm not saying I want this to end, but I want a piece of it to end so that maybe we can look at a new element or something, because this book's kind of meandering. It's not bad, but it's been better, and I feel like it can be better, and I feel like we're getting there, but this issue had to happen. This issue by no way is slouching, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So there you go. So if you made it to the end, thank you. It's been a buttload of books. Yeah, please hit me up with how you film and stuff, and let's talk comics and stuff and things and stuff and things. Yeah, it's gonna be good times, guys. Rock on.